Hey everyone, I'll introduce myself. In case you missed it, looks like Nathan is dealing with some background noise at his place, but should be good to start in a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm Eric. I am a teacher and tutor with the Lsat Demon. I've also been editing the podcasts for going on a year now, which is kind of crazy. With me, of course, besides Nathan, is Abigail, who is I don't know, I think of her as like the lifeblood of this organization. Seems like every time I have a question or anytime she has a question, like all flows through Abigail. She's awesome. If you have any general questions that someone such as myself or Abigail could answer, you're welcome to start dropping them in the chat or using your raise hand feature in Zoom. Looks like Bonnie, you've got a question. If you'd rather wait for Nathan to answer, that's perfectly good as well, but I can do my best.
Nathan answers all my questions all the time. No, I actually wanted to kind of just ask both you and Abigail your like LSAT story, because I know I don't think I've ever gone to one of your classes, Eric, or maybe I have kind of like dropped in and out. So I guess I just don't. I mean, I know Abigail from all the TAing that she does here, but I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the two of you, if that's okay.
Yeah, Abigail, do you want to share your story?
Sure. So I started studying, I guess it was like fall of 2019. Didn't know anything about the LSAT or what it was. I just happened to go on Amazon and look for an LSAT book, and luckily I found Nathan's what is it, the like little introduction to the LSAT book, and that is what led me to find the podcast, and that changed my whole plan about applying to law school that year to go the following fall. I ended up studying with the Demon. It was like the very beginning stages of the Demon, but I used that, and along with like the prep test books, I studied for about almost 5 months, and then took the LSAT. The first time I got a 174, which was up from I think my diagnostic was like a 163. And after that, I ended up just falling in love with the LSAT. So I was I was happy to put off going to law school, heard about a job opening on the podcast and applied. And then I've been working here since. And then I ended up retaking the test and brought my score up to a 179.
So are you going to be going to law school, or did they convince you not to?
I'm planning on I'm applying this year to start next year, but I'm going to be sticking around.
That's some stiff competition. If we're applying this year and you are too, that's kind of. But thank you for sharing that with us. And
of course,
Eric, what about you? Are you heading into the applicant pool right now too?
Yeah, I'm taking a break from drafting.
Oh, you just went.
Yeah, my phone decided to mute for a second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, that's better.
Yes, I'm taking a break from drafting my Why Michigan supplemental essay at the moment to help be here. So yes, I am applying this week to schools, and originally thought I was applying last cycle. Unfortunately, like Abigail, I did not immediately stumble on to Nathan and Ben's work. I was with another company for just a little bit, but discovered the Demon, loved the approach, and immediately made sense to me. So I studied with the Demon for several months before I took my first official test. Had already at that point realized that I needed to do myself a favor and delay my application until this cycle. So when I took the test, there was no pressure, and it wasn't a disaster when I scored near the bottom of my range. So I was able to take the test again, eventually getting to a 175, which was good enough for me. And yeah, I've been, like I said, editing the podcast for a while, and also teaching classes now and tutoring students. So yeah, excited by this current stage of putting in applications. And now I'm sure just anxiously checking application status trackers until find out. Lauren, you've got your hand up. Anything we can help you with?
Hi. I know the bio for this class today said we were talking about rolling admissions. I wanted to know if you guys knew anything about I guess schools that don't do rolling admissions, if they this one school I'm interested in, they said that they are going to review applications in November and then decisions will come out in December and March. And I know I'm planning to take the November LSAT, which the score will come back November 30th. So does that mean I'm going to be getting a decision in March, or it just depends on the school? And if it is March, then it's should I just take it in January if I'm going to have to wait? Or
Nathan, I see your video is back up. Are you good now?
I can try my best. I got a bit of background noise. I also lost my voice because I think I have COVID. I keep testing negative, but I have all the symptoms. So I feel like that's probably what's going on. Yeah, we can talk about rolling admissions, and we'll do that, Lauren, in the course of my regularly scheduled presentation. So let's just go ahead and dive on into it. Sorry about my voice. I'll do my best. Let's see. I'm going to, okay, let me look at the poll first. Yeah, raise your hands if you have questions. Try to stay muted if you don't have questions. I see that we have a mix of live subscribers. That's all the people who come to our live classes, multiple different live classes, 7 days a week in Zoom in the LSAT Demon. Thank you for being here. We also have premium and basic students here. Those are more self-study options. Happy to see you here for this free class. And then, yeah, a whole bunch of free users, free students as well. That's excellent. We're proud of our free resources that we offer at LSAT Demon. So we're happy to have you here. Hopefully you'll take full advantage of all the stuff that's available with your free account. It's a lot of really great stuff. Okay, let's start here. I'm going to share my screen. So this is the LSAT Demon Scholarship Estimator. You go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships. And you can play around with this tool anytime. You put your GPA down here. So we've got a, okay, 3.8, and you put your LSAT here. We've got a pretty good, but not elite 170. You can check URM or not URM. You can check in-state or not in-state. And then you hit update. And then this is the updated list for not URM, not in-state, 3.8, 170. These are just predictions. We base these predictions off of the American Bar Association 509 reports. And we're going to take a look at one of those in just a second, because I want you to really equip yourself to negotiate with these law schools. If you're not familiar with the public data regarding each of your target schools, that's like not knowing the MSRP of a car you want to buy, except for instead of being a $18,000 car, it's a $180,000 law school degree. And you need to be savvy consumers. So that's one big purpose of this class, which is about getting greedy in a few different ways. So play with this, please, on your own, and you might get a sense of what kinds of schools you would be targeting at your current level. Like this student, I think they should be looking at University of Florida. I think they should be looking at BYU. I think if they want to go to Utah, but when we get down here into the 20s and 30s, we see a whole bunch of full tuition scholarship estimates. And down near the bottom, it's going to be probably mostly green. Okay, so Matthew, before I go into this, looking at this 509, Matthew, what can I do for you?
Yeah, so this is a specific question. How applicable is this tool, and what do you recommend, or does it even matter? Or am I still screwed if my undergrad GPA was not good, but I've been gainfully employed for, let's say, 5 years?
Don't care. Really don't care, Matthew. The estimator does a really good job of predicting scholarships based on just the data that we're asking you for. That's because law schools are intensely interested in your undergraduate GPA and your LSAT. If you have a bad undergraduate GPA, God knows I did. I was an idiot when I was 19 years old in college. I shouldn't have been there. You know, I should have been working, or I should have been maybe at a community college or something, but I totally squandered my undergrad. I never thought that I was going to go to grad school. I'm a first generation college student. You know, the only reason why I'm even in this conversation is because of the LSAT. And the LSAT can do that for you, Matthew, if you get the right score. So, you know, put in whatever the number is. I mean, my GPA was 2.5. So, whoops, what did I just do? My GPA was 2.5. So let's put that in 2.54. My LSAT was a 179. So let's put that in. I am not a URM. But yeah, I mean, I should have gone to University of Iowa for free, or I should have gone to George Mason for free, or any of these other schools down here for free. Instead, I stupidly went to University of California, Hastings. I had a full ride to USF. I had a full ride to Golden Gate, and I just really was an idiot. And I went to Hastings, which did absolutely nothing for me except for put me $165,000 in debt, I believe. I graduated, but I had $160 thousand in debt. My monthly payment was $1,700 right out of law school. And my business was successful. You know, my LSAT business was successful. And so I ended up being able to pay it back. But boy, if I would have struggled to find a good career, which so many law graduates do, I would have really been struggling to pay back that money. And so our whole philosophy is just, hey, take the best full ride you can get. What is your rationale for going to a slightly more prestigious school when you could go to a slightly less prestigious school for free? Is it, do you really want to bet $175,000 on yourself? And I wouldn't bet $175,000 on you, because I know that like half of all law grads don't practice law. And I know nobody here thinks that's going to apply to you, but about half of you are not going to practice law, even if you go to law school. So you got to be really careful about how much money you are going to indebt yourself for. Does that answer your question, Matthew?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And I guess you're going to help us read a 509 to determine if it's worth going into some amount of debt.
It's not. It's not. I mean, unless we're talking about Harvard, Stanford, Yale, it's not worth it.
Right.
But, or at least I have never told anyone that it was worth it. In 15 years that I've been doing this, I've never told one person to pay.
Well, let me rephrase my what I was going to say. Not that it's advisable to go into or worth it to go into some amount of debt, but how to read the 509 to determine, let's say, what range we're going to land. We should expect to land in, on how to plan forward. Right. Absolutely.
So let's look at a hypothetical me who knew then what I know now, and I can talk you through how I would play the game as an extreme splitter with my, again, 2.54 embarrassing undergraduate GPA and a not embarrassing 179 LSAT. Let's talk about how I would proceed. I would scan down this looking for green. You know, maybe I would apply to some of the schools that have more than half. Maybe I also would apply to like Stanford, because I love Stanford. It feels like a special place every time I'm on that campus. It's, you know, like I regret that I didn't go to Stanford for my undergrad. So, you know, maybe I would apply there and they would reject me. Or a miracle and I would get in, but no, they would reject me. So maybe I would apply to some of these schools that are offering more than half, but then I would apply to a lot of these schools that are estimated to be offering full tuition or more. So I would look here, I would go, ain't no way in hell I'm going to Iowa. Next, scroll down, George Mason, great, George Mason. That's in DC, right? I could go to DC. I could be in DC.
Yes, it
okay.
is. It's in Virginia. You're welcome.
Thanks, Rashida. So let's take a look at George Mason's 509.
Mhm.
This is a 509 standard information report that is required by the American Bar Association for every ABA accredited school. They have to publish these. And again, you can find all of them with these little PDF links to the 509 reports. The schools kind of hide them on their website, or you might see an outdated one. We've got all the updated ones always linked on this sheet. So I would start with our scholarship estimator, and then I would go to the 509s. These 509s are self-reported data from the schools. They are rife with errors. We are doing our best to fact check them for purposes of the scholarship estimator, but we find all kinds of mistakes on these reports all the time. That said, we are pretty successful at predicting scholarships based on the data that we find on these reports. So let's take a look. We have, completed applications, offers of admission, acceptance rate. George Mason, they accept about 27% of the applications that come in. Of those, interestingly, check this out. I think this is a really important part of the negotiation for you, okay? You need to realize this, that George Mason, they seem like they are, selective. They're only accepting 27%. Yeah, but of the people that they accept, less than half of those actually accept George Mason back. So there's actually more people accepted to George Mason and turning them down than there are accepted to George Mason and going to actual George Mason. And I think that that's true for almost every law school. The law schools are going to make it look like their school is super prestigious and you'd be really lucky to get in there. The car dealer will also tell you that this car is the last one in the state. Oh, you want this car? Yeah. Oh, you don't like the color? Well, but it's the only one that's available in the whole state, and we're having they're hot. Someone was here just trying to buy it earlier. So do what you want. I mean, you should do your due diligence and go shop, of course. But this car is probably won't be here when you come back. And that's what the law schools do when they try to get you to pay too much money to go to their stupid school. Here's the rest of the data, or at least the important stuff that I like to look at. I definitely look at the LSAT percentiles. So law schools tell us explicitly that they are interested in LSAT and GPA percentiles for not just one, but two reasons. This is coming from Dean Z from University of Michigan in one of her videos. She laid it all out. She's not hiding the ball at all. She told us that she cares about your LSAT and your undergraduate GPA because they are the best predictor she has of how successful you're going to be in her law school. She's worried that you might not be able to cut it at University of Michigan. And I'm sure that this is true of every school. They're always looking at your LSAT and GPA because they know that if you have low on both, well, you're unlikely to be successful at their school. They don't want people that are unsuccessful at their school. They want people that kill it at their school and end up finding gainful employment and donate money back to the school and rave about the school to their friends and, raise the prestige of the school by being successful at the school. So that's one reason why law schools look at your LSAT and GPA. The second reason why law schools look at your LSAT and GPA is completely cynical. And Dean Z said it explicitly. If you're below our medians, you're gonna make the medians go down. And these medians, that is the 50th percentile, the 50th percentile is what US News uses when they rank law schools. It's one of the things that they use when they rank law schools. So you'll notice here at George Mason, we've got a really pretty narrow range of LSAT, right? 158 to 166. With the 157, you're probably not getting in, or if you do get in, you're definitely paying full price. If you get a 167, not only are you presumptively going to get in, or even a 165, you are presumptively going to get in because you raise the prestige of the school. You raise the ranking of the school. And if you're 167, these good folks at George Mason in Arlington, Virginia, they look at you and they go, damn, like that kid might get into Georgetown, or that kid might get into, I don't know, any other competitor school. and they might choose that school over my school. And that's where the scholarships start to come in. So our philosophy is don't pay for law school. For every student at every level, we believe you can get a scholarship somewhere. And JD is a JD is a JD, kids. I hate to break it to you, but you study almost the exact same shit at every law school, and you are qualified to sit the bar in that state. So, or actually, if you go to an ABA accredited school, you might be actually eligible to sit the bar in any state. Now that I think about it, I think that's accurate. So there's lots of good reasons to sort of lower, just dip down a little bit lower in the rankings and take that scholarship. Again, for me, hypothetical me, I don't get a lot of full rides at these top schools, but at a school like Iowa, I'm getting full tuition, whereas just one click higher in the rankings, Notre Dame Law School, I'm getting less than half. I would be such an idiot to go to Notre Dame because it's ranked one higher on the rankings, instead of just taking the sure thing and not borrowing, literally a house of money, depending where you're living in Iowa. You could buy a house for 200 grand. That's how much you're going to borrow if you go to that law school for 3 years. So Iowa is like, yeah, no, we know you don't want to come to Iowa. Here's a full ride so that you might consider coming to Iowa. All right. I see your hands. I'll call on you in just a sec. There's more data. Okay, so we scroll down to the second page. I think it's kind of telling that they have buried at the very bottom of the second page is where they finally show you the money. This is the most important part of the 509, which is how many people are getting money. And at this school, which again was George Mason, 89% of their class is getting some sort of financial aid. And by financial aid, I don't mean loans, I mean grants. That's total number receiving grants. 89% are getting grants. That means that 11% are not getting grants. If you're among the 11% that are not getting grants, I think you are making a grave mistake. I think that you are paying for the JD of people who are better equipped than you are to do well in that JD program. I mean, the reason why they're not giving you a scholarship is because your LSAT and your GPA are lower than their medians. So they're worried that you're going to be able to compete. They're also worried that you're going to hurt the reputation of that school. And you're going to be competing with people who have higher LSAT, higher GPA, and are going for free. If you come and talk to our demon teachers, Rebecca and Matt Dumont, and I don't know, there's more of them now going to school. Most of them are there for free. And they are overqualified at their school. They had better LSAT, better GPA. They're better at school. And because they're better at school, guess what? They get lots of A's in their first year. And if you get lots of A's in your first year, then you get lots of good opportunities at that school. If you get bad grades, you don't get the on-campus interview anyway. So if a school is like, well, I don't think you should go to Golden Gate because Golden Gate, Morrison Forrester doesn't come to Golden Gate to hire. You got to go, at Hastings, Morrison Forrester comes and hires every year at Hastings. Yeah, but if you don't get a scholarship to Hastings, odds are Morrison Forrester is not hiring you out of Hastings, because odds are you're not going to compete very well in the academic competition that law school is. And let's make no mistake, okay, this is all the smartest people you've ever been in school with. No dumbasses, no one lazy. Everyone there is a killer. And you're going to have to compete with them for grades. And when Morrison Forrester does come to campus, they're going to send out an email that's going to be like, if you're in the top 15% of your class, we would love to interview you. Or maybe it's 25% or whatever. But point is, there's lots of opportunities that are available to people who go to that school, but they're only available if you actually get the grades to make that connection for you. And if you're paying for law school, I would not bet on you to compete for grades. How could I? Like, you lost in undergrad, you lost on the LSAT. I have to presume that the higher LSAT, higher GPA is going to probably, that's not to say it's 100% of the time, right? You could be an exception, but we aren't all exceptions. Not all y'all are going to be exceptions. You guys are going to be competing with one another. So I would advise you to take the scholarship and make yourself a big fish in a smaller pond instead of the tiny little fish getting eaten up in the bigger pond. Further breakdown of this 509 report, we can see that 29% of these 484 students are getting something less than half tuition. We call that, on the Thinking LSAT podcast, we call it a scammership, because, you know, they're telling you, hey, our tuition over here is $38,000 a year, non-resident. Can that be right? That actually looks like it might be per semester. I told you that these 509s are all busted. You know, I doubt that their resident tuition is actually 23 grand. Maybe it is, though. I have a feeling that's per semester and it's just misreported, you know, plus another close to $3,000 in fees. The 29%, you know, they're getting some fraction. That notice here that the 25th percentile grant amount is only $19,000. And I do think that the tuition for this school is probably more like $60,000 a year. So you're getting less than 1/3 of your tuition covered. That's the kind of patronizing they're trying to get you to go by giving you a scholarship, but you need to think about the money that you're paying out, not the money that's coming in. I mean, you're never going to see that money, right? You don't get a check for $19,000. That just comes off of the amount that you owe them, and you're going to owe them a hell of a lot more than that. But same school, 42% of the class is getting something between half and full. 12% of the class is getting full. 6% of the class is getting more than full. And this isn't even a particularly egregious school. So we've got almost 20% of the class getting full tuition or full tuition plus. Only 11% of the class who are actually paying full price. Everybody else is paying something in between full price and nothing at all. And the people who get the worst or zero scholarships are really funding the entire school, while also getting their ass kicked by the scholarship kids who are there going for free. Maybe that means you don't have to work. Maybe that means you don't have to worry about money. You are probably going to do pretty well in the academic competition. All right. George Mason does have a part-time program, by the way, so it's breaking it down here full-time and part-time. You can take a look at all of these at your leisure. One more thing that I might look at on the 509 report is just the, not this, I'm looking for the conditional scholarship. Oh, here it is. Conditional scholarships were in the news like a couple years ago. Schools got a real bad reputation for all these gotcha scholarships where it was like, well, you have to maintain a 3.0. And then it turns out that it's really hard to get a 3.0. And so they're snatching the rug out from under a whole bunch of people who think they're going to be there on a scholarship. Looks like that's not happening very much at George Mason, although in a percentage term, it actually is. Most of the people who get a conditional scholarship at George Mason don't keep that conditional scholarship. So you need to be aware of that. If the school offers you something that's conditional, look back at this and go, oh, so you're telling me I have like this is, 2/3, 6 out of 9, that's 2/3 chance of losing the scholarship. It's only a 1/3 chance of keeping the full scholarship. And that doesn't bode well for you either. All right. Yeah, I see some of your comments, like when school name is not on this form. We don't care. Your major, don't care. Where you went to school, don't care. Now, there are some exceptions to that, okay? There are certain schools that are notorious for giving terrible grades. If you go to one of those schools, then you know that you go to one of those schools. And in that case, the law schools might be willing to halfway get over your low GPA. And I say halfway because what they're going to do is they're going to go, oh, well, I know you can cut it. Dean Z is going to go, oh, yeah, but you got that GPA at a school that like really doesn't inflate grades. So I know you can cut it. Excuse me. But you're still going to lower my medians. You're still going to make me look bad on the 509. You're still going to potentially lower my rank. So even if I know you can cut it, I still might discriminate against you because you are going to drag down my numbers. I think that probably doesn't happen very often because the schools that don't do grade inflation tend to be really small. There just don't tend to be that many applicants. And so maybe the schools don't worry about it so much. But all the rest of you who went to normal schools, there is grade inflation at your school, and the law schools know that, and they're just going to expect really, really good grades. You know, think about what they're doing, right? Know your audience. They're assessing you for your, like, are you going to do well at my school? Well, how'd you do at your previous school? And how'd you do on this exam? Because the LSAT is the best, I think, numeric determinant of how you're going to do on your law school exams. It's not perfect. It's just the best that they have. All right. I don't think I need to talk about anything else there on the 509. Maybe I'll take a question or two before I move on to the next thing. Rashida and then John.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hope you feel better. Hi,
Thanks.
everyone. So as for me and my situation, I've been out of school for a while, 41 years old, and I want to go to school part-time. So I definitely wanted to get my scores up. I'm looking to take the test maybe November or January. And I had the mentality until you mentored to someone, because I'm a Fed of 18 years. So I have a career in the federal government. It would kind of like get me in just a little bit, even though my scores is low. And I am in the DMV area. So for me, and I don't have the greatest score in college. And I did make that in my personal statement of why my score was low. So
I hate that. I do not want to see a personal statement about why you did poorly at
Really?
something. No, I want to see a personal statement about why you did well at something. I know you're hearing the opposite from schools, but the schools have no incentive to make you a better applicant, okay? We've yelled about this a lot on the Thinking LSAT podcast recently. I'm convinced that the law schools have no incentive to make you a better applicant. If they make you a better applicant, you might get a better offer from some other school. What they want you to be is an applicant at their school today. So they're going to bullshit you with, oh, tell us about why you want to be, tell us, oh, really? You've wanted to be a lawyer since you were a kid? That's so interesting. Tell me more about how you wanted to be, oh, you argued your bedtime when you were a little kid. And so that's your parents have always said, oh, you should be a lawyer. That is the worst personal statement. That is the most overdone. And it's about a thing you did when you were a kid. Children don't understand what lawyers do. Stop it. Write about better stuff. But Rashida,
yes.
they care about your LSAT, your undergraduate GPA, and that URM box. Those are the three things that are going to really move the needle in your law school application. They're also going to bullshit you about your career. Oh, you've been a Fed? Oh, that's so fantastic. Oh yeah, well, when we see that work experience, we evaluate applications holistically, and we're going to really bullshit. You're going to really give that heavy weight. If you really gave that heavy weight, then you would have a much wider range of LSAT and GPA on your 509 report.
Yeah.
But every one of these 509s that you look at is going to have a super narrow LSAT and GPA range. Now, there are exceptions, of course, and they frequently are willing to make those exceptions for URM candidates because they don't want to look terrible. I mean, there is some like race and ethnicity stuff here, right, on the 509.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not looking at it. I didn't share my screen anymore. Right here, there's race and ethnicity stuff. And looking at this school that, what did I say? It had 262 people, and they've got a whole 38 Hispanics. So a little bit over 10%. They've got 10 out of 200 and something Black or African Americans.
Wow.
It's really pretty shameful how underrepresented minorities are in law school, and the law schools genuinely want to fix that. So they will be a little bit more generous with that, but they don't give a shit about your career stuff. If you were really on the bubble, you and somebody else, and you had the exact same numbers, exact same URM status, then yeah, they might prefer someone with a career to someone who doesn't have a career. But that's not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth thing that they're looking at, despite what they might tell you. Did I answer your question, Rashida?
Yes, it does. And for those of us, well, I know for me, I'll be going to school part-time. And I know I've been told like they don't necessarily require a higher score as if those who are going full-time. I'm not for sure about that, but I've heard a lot of
That's
that.
on the 509s.
Okay.
That's on the 509 reports, Rashida. So here, let me share my screen one more time, because these are questions that you can answer yourself by just looking at all those 509s, which is half of my purpose here, is to encourage you to go look at these 509 reports. Yeah. At George Mason, it looks like, yeah, I mean, the bottom of their part-time LSAT is a little bit lower, but all the other numbers are exactly the same. GPA looks like it's a little bit lower across the board for that part-time program. Okay. For other schools, though, you might actually find part-time programs more competitive than full-time programs. You got to look at all the 509 reports.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rashida. Let's go to John, and then I'm going to make some other remarks, and then I'll get to the rest of you guys who have hands up. John?
Thanks. I was just going to ask about part-time as well, but yeah, that's kind of been answered.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just lower your hands when I'm done calling on you, please. So I want to talk about rolling admissions. That came up earlier. Our philosophy, we used to say apply in September or not at all, but that's making the presumption that all law schools open their application in September. They don't. That's not true. We're in the very beginning stages of a data collection project where we're going to get the opening date for all the schools, and we're also going to get the first scholarship date for all of the schools. And I'm here to tell you that the scholarship season for 2023 is already in full swing. Arizona State University, they opened their applications in August this year, early August. And there are people who, we've gotten multiple emails now from people with full rides from University of Arizona, and they came out in August. People actually got offers in August this year. Last year, I thought it was really early when we heard Dickinson, Penn State Dickinson was giving scholarships in September, but this year Arizona's out there beating them on that and giving scholarships in August. Well, think about what the schools are doing, right? They're competing with each other for the best applicants. They have scholarships to give to try to attract the best applicants. And if they open their application early, then they probably want applications early. At the very least, they're looking to poach some of the best candidates, like early bird gets the worm sort of style. And yeah, sure, maybe the bulk of their admissions decisions aren't made until November. Some schools are still making admissions decisions even in, the new year, January, February. And there's always wait lists and stuff where you're getting in, a week before school actually starts. But that's not the door that I want you guys to walk through. I don't want you guys going in the side door or the back door. I want you guys waltzing through the front door with a goddamn red carpet laid out for you, or no, a green carpet of money laid out for you, where you just waltz right into the school, picking up $100 bills along the way, because they have identified you as a scholarship star. And the schools that do, so now, if we're talking about Yale, well, then Yale is the perpetual #1 ranked law school by everybody. Well, not amusingly, not above the law, but everybody knows that Yale's the shit, and they know that they're the shit more than anybody else. And they are like, yeah, we don't even look at applications until January. Okay, fine. I believe you, actual Yale. But most schools are not actual Yale. And I think that there is a very steep drop-off in the rankings. The schools are they're always looking down on someone else. Okay, so the schools are always going to tell you, like if I was Hastings, I would be, I'm down here 51st in the country now, according to US News. But Hastings believes themselves to be a national law school. They believe themselves to be this big, prestigious school, and they constantly compare themselves to USF and Golden Gate. and they think that the opportunities that you're going to get at Hastings are so much better than you are at USF and Golden Gate, I think that's mostly a crock of shit. Certainly not worth paying for. I would take the scholarship to USF, or I would take the scholarship to Golden Gate, because let's be honest, if you go to Hastings, you're not a Supreme Court justice anyway. You're not clerking on the Supreme Court. I mean, you're not, like, it's just not the type of school that really impresses people in Washington, D.C. or New York City. It's okay, right? And most law schools fall into that same bucket. Most law schools, I really do believe most law schools are okay. Getting up here to the edge of the top 14, I don't know why 14 is the magic number for law school, but people think that, you know, I got to go top 14 or bust. Really? Why? What's wrong with 15? What's wrong with 16? Oh, by the way, did you know that 14, 15, 16 constantly change positions in the rankings anyway? A school could be top 14 this year and not be top 14 next year. That's happened multiple times recently. You realize that, right? If you want to see how wildly changeable these scholarships are, I think it's lsatdemon.com/scholarships. No, sorry, /rankings. Here we go. This is another new page that we just built, but it has all of the US News ranked schools. And you can just see how, look at this, University of Washington, you know, 10 years ago, you're like, oh, I'm going to a school that's ranked 30th in the country. This is really good. I mean, I would never go to a school that's ranked 40th or 50th in the country. Guess what? Now you're an alum and your school is ranked 49th in the country, University of Washington. They go up and down, of course, but they change so much as to make law school rankings almost irrelevant or really worthless for you making choices about where you want to go to school. And instead, I think that you should make the choice based on the money. Okay, so our new thing is find out when your target schools open their apps and apply then. Basically, when the schools open their apps. We're going to aggregate all the data on it, but I am very convinced that there is a feeding frenzy early in the cycle. The very best full ride offers that we ever see come earlier in the cycle, not later in the cycle. And I would never, ever, ever look at the application deadline. You guys think, oh, well, the deadline's, you know, not till February, so I'm fine. Don't care. Arizona opened that application in August, and they're already giving people free seats in their class for that year. You want one of those free seats. You don't want to be paying for those seats. You want the free seat. So you want to apply early. And that's why you need to get greedy, apply broadly. Here's the order of operations, right? If you're still an undergrad, you need to get the very best grades you can get because grades matter for law school admissions. If you have bad grades in the past, like I do, who cares? Because that's the past. You can't control that. So sorry, that's done. But if you're still an undergrad, don't even study for the LSAT unless you're getting straight A's. Like you need to get straight A's to show the schools that you have what it takes and hopefully to raise their medians. Once your GPA is done, then you can work on the LSAT. And if you're working on the LSAT, I think you probably shouldn't be working on really anything else. I think you should be taking practice tests. You should be using high quality videos, high quality written explanations, tutors and teachers and classes that you think can help you. I am biased, but I am also sure that LSAT Demon has the best LSAT prep available. And that's just based on the wild amount of improvement that people have made, especially recently. Get the best LSAT officially on record that you can. Law schools only care about your highest score. You're allowed to take it 3 times in one cycle or 5 times in 2 consecutive academic cycles, which means you actually can take it 5 times in 1 calendar year. If you start early in the year, you can take it 5 times in the same calendar year. I'm not saying you have to take it 5 times, but you need to be open to the possibility that you're going to take it 5 times. Because we've read multiple emails on the podcast about this where people have taken it 5 times and ended up getting their by far best score on their 5th attempt. And now they're getting a full ride to law school that they wouldn't have gotten if they had stopped at 4. Stop at 4 with a lower with a lower LSAT. That is not better than taking it a 5th time and scoring higher. Maybe taking it 5 times isn't optimal. Some schools will be like, oh, we raise an eyebrow if you take it a lot of times. Sure, but still, you're going to prefer somebody with a higher 5th attempt than somebody who just stopped at 4 and didn't ever score higher. The highest LSAT is what gets reported on your 509. All right, I'm going to shut up and take some questions. Oh, wait, let me see. I think that I have covered all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I think I have. Okay, so let's go to Jack, then Judah. Jack, you there? I can't hear you. All right, let's try Judah.
So I have 2 parts to my question. The first is that you said that they don't care about your career. And I'm wondering if that's the case, what about like Peace Corps or like Teach for America? No?
Well, yes, they care as the 5th or 6th or 7th most important thing on your application.
Okay. Because I mean, I've heard in the past that you say that if they put it on their website as like, oh, they've had this many Rhodes Scholars, they've had this many Teach for America.
Teach for America ain't Rhodes Scholar.
No, I'm aware. I'm just saying. That
Teach for America is like really, really common. Okay. Like it doesn't, I don't think you're really impressing anybody with Teach for America, to be honest. Now, if you did cool stuff at Teach for America and you want to write about that experience, that's great. But if you think that that is going to carry, more weight than 2 more LSAT points, no way.
And then you also said that they care about URM status. What would be the benefit of, like, how would that be good for them to care about URM status?
I just showed you the 509 reports, right?
Right.
Do you think it looks good for those schools to have like no Black people?
I mean, I guess it doesn't look good.
No, it looks really, really bad. They are ashamed of that, and they should be. And so, yeah, they are more generous with URM applicants. It's just hard to find URM applicants with great grades, great LSAT. I don't know why, but that's how it is. And so they are gonna be a bit more generous with URM applicants.
Okay, thank you.
That makes way more difference than your Teach for America.
Got you.
All right, Jerron, then Lauren.
Hey Nate. My question was, when I on the scholarship estimator, when I enter my GPA, and I mean I haven't taken the LSAT yet, but my average is the last 10. Like for a school like Berkeley, it said I would get more than half. But when I go to the LSAT predictor, it says that I would only have a 25% chance of even getting in. So I was wondering, is there anything that would account for this discrepancy, or is it like, is it more like if I will get more than half if I get in, or is that was like something?
I don't know. We don't actually care about, like, we don't have an admissions predictor, right? So you're talking about an admissions predictor that you saw somewhere
On LSAT.
On LSAC, yeah, okay. So I don't know. I have no experience with that tool. I don't think that that's the tool that you should be using. I think that you should be using our scholarship estimator, because I think you would be crazy to pay for a school like Berkeley. I mean, if you can get into Berkeley, you can probably get a full ride to Hastings instead. As much as I shit on Hastings, I would rather you take that full ride to Hastings than to pay for Berkeley. And if if you're just squeaking in, you're probably not getting a scholarship. I don't know. But here's the thing, Jerron. Everybody apply broadly. Apply as early as they'll let you with your very best LSAT, and then apply to many schools, not one, many schools. I think 15 is a pretty good number. I've seen people apply to 40 schools before. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. But if you're just applying to 1 or 2 or 3 schools, I think you're a sucker. I think you've decided that you're going to buy a car before you even walk onto the car dealership lot. And that's a real good way to overpay for a car. I would always apply broader, not narrower. All right, let's go Lauren, then Sherman.
Hi. So I wanted, what do you know what the main difference is between rolling admission and just like the school is saying they're just going to give out decisions in December and March? And I guess the school that I'm looking into, they said that they're reviewing in November, and I know I'm set to take the October and November test. And the October test is going to come back November 2nd, and the November test is going to come back November 30th. And I feel like that's like when they'll be reviewing. So I guess if like worst case scenario, they're already done viewing November people, and then I don't get a decision back till March, would you recommend instead of taking the LSAT in the second LSAT in November, taking it in January, or still as early as possible?
You're thinking about it all wrong, Lauren. You're too committed to one school. You're thinking about their decision process at one school, and instead you need to be thinking about 15 different schools, okay? Some schools are already giving scholarships this cycle. That means you shouldn't apply to that school for their dumb November decision. You should wait till next September or August, actually. You should wait till next August. Or hey, maybe they'll start opening applications in July next year or June. I don't know. I can't predict what these schools are going to do. I know what I would do if I was a savvy law school admissions dean. I would open up that window real early. Like I would probably always have the application window open because I would always be wanting applications. I'd always be wanting to try to find the best applicants. Your one school that you're talking about, Lauren, I think they're dumb for doing it that way. If they are indeed doing it that way, I think that they are a dumb law school for doing it that way. I would guess that their ranking is probably not very high. Maybe they don't care about the rankings, which, okay, I'll say you're not dumb if you don't care about the rankings. But if you do care about the rankings, then I don't think you're playing the game the right way. I think if you care about the rankings, you should be opening your application really early and immediately playing the scholarship game, because if you don't, other schools will. And the reason why your school has less prestige is because you don't do as good enough a job. You don't do a good job recruiting applicants. There can be exceptions, of course, geographical limitations, but on the whole, I think that, you need to decouple yourself from their shit. You need to decide that I, Lauren, am doing it the right way, which involves taking the LSAT potentially 5 times. You shouldn't take it in October if you're not ready to take it in October. How do we know if we're ready in October? Well, we look at our practice test scores and we go, is that score going to get me the scholarship that I want? And if not, then you don't take the test. You push it. So I would never sign up for the LSAT in advance. I would only sign up like on the deadline, basically. We always report all these deadlines on the podcast and elsewhere. So you can hopefully apply. So you can sign up to take the test when you're ready, but there's no reason to sign up months in advance. You should do practice tests months in advance. When you're happy with your PTs, that's when you should sign up for the official test. And Lauren, I strongly encourage you to just wait another cycle. I mean, I've helped so many people make so much better decisions, and it really frequently starts with waiting another cycle. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying for law school. Sherman.
Good evening, Nathan. Thank you for taking my question. I recently just signed up for Live. The concept, the ideology of going to school for free is new to me, but I'm catching on. My question is, are there time constraints on these scholarship offers that schools make? So, for example, if you're waiting for one particular school, but you have an offer on the table,
yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah, but Sherman, let's cross those bridges when we come to them. You can let me know when you get an offer with an expiration date on it. All law schools have deposit deadlines. They'll make it seem like if you don't accept by a certain date, not only are they going to take away your scholarship, but they're going to just take away your offer of admission entirely. That's probably bullshit. If they offered you a scholarship, they really want you if they offered you a scholarship. And so they're probably going to be willing to negotiate or push that deadline. I've seen tons of applicants be able to push their deadline, their deposit deadline. If not, you can frequently just pay the deposit to one school. You narrow it down, right? You don't pay deposits to 15 schools, but you pay a deposit to one school that made you a really nice offer, and then you wait for this other offer to come in, and then you make your decision. And if you have to walk away from a $500 deposit, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of law school as a whole. Does that make sense? Thanks, Sherman. Let's see if we can get to Simone and maybe Luis. Simone, going once? Oh, hi.
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm driving. But so, and you might have answered my question when you're talking to Lauren. You were talking about how schools have opened up applications a lot sooner and they're accepting people. But what about, like I said, you probably answered this question. I am stuck on one particular school and I've been watching them. Well, they had their admission open in September last year, and then their priority deadline for scholarships was January.
Stop
Then
thinking
this
about,
year they've extended it off to March.
hey, stop listening to them nope, Simone, listen. Stop listening to those schools with their dumbass priority deadline for scholarships. That's a crock of shit. They are out there giving away money early in the cycle to try to get the best applicants. They tell you, oh no, if you apply in January, that's plenty of time. That's our priority deadline for scholarships. Stop thinking about deadlines. The only thing that's relevant to you is what day did you open your applications?
Okay.
Thank you, Simone. Anything else?
You've answered my question, then, and that means to hold off another cycle.
Great. Thank you, Simone. Luis.
Thank you.
Luis, you there? Let's try Kat. Kat.
Hey, Nathan, thank you so much for taking my question. I'm going to go ahead and make this quick. So my whole plan is just to stay in SoCal, you know, and I'm noticing that a lot of these, you know, top universities up in SoCal, they don't got a lot of Latino folk, even though Latino folk make up a majority population up in SoCal. So, and one thing about me is that I have worked with formerly incarcerated population in my university, and I'm wondering, that's something just unique about my application, even though I know that's 5th or 6th.
It's also not unique. I mean, there are other people who do that, so it's literally not unique. It's a feather in your cap, but I don't care about the feather in your cap. The LSAT is like an entire new hat. I mean, it's a hat and a suit and a car. The feather in your cap from working with certain populations, that's nice. The reason why they don't have as many Latinos as they should at UCLA is because they don't get enough Latino applicants with high LSAT, high GPA. I mean, they are really intensely interested in LSAT and GPA because they want to scratch their way into the top 14. They did it just 2 years ago, then they got kicked out. Go ahead.
My GPA is modest. It's 3.38. I know I could get it up to a 3.34, and maybe
doesn't matter. You're way below their 70. You're way below their 25th percentile, so it doesn't even matter.
Okay, thank you.
Your LSAT is what matters.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can apply to that school with a 172 and a 3.2. And with a 172 and a 3.2, I think they probably admit you. And I wouldn't be surprised if they gave you some money.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
But like without the LSAT, they're just not going to give a shit. Like they're going to make an exception for Latinos with the right LSAT. They're not going to, you know, with closer to their numbers. They're not going to be like, oh, bad grades, bad LSAT. Yeah, we'll let you in because you're Latina. That's just not a thing that they're ever going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for being here. I have a 2-hour LSAT class that started 1 minute ago for LSAT Demon subscribers. So I do have to go. Eric's going to hang out with you for a while. Maybe he can answer these remaining questions. Keep using the chat, keep talking to Eric. And I will see you guys either in my class if you're a live subscriber, or I do this every other week. So hopefully I'll see you back here again for a different topic a couple weeks from now. Thanks very much for being here. I appreciate you guys. See you guys next time. Thanks.
Hey, everyone. Sorry you're stuck with me now, but hopefully I can keep answering questions. Admittedly, I am not an expert on the law school admissions process. I am going through it myself right now. But maybe that in itself can be an extra level of tough love for those of you who are asking questions about, you know, what if I get my score in November? What if I can push the deadline for my application until December or January? Well, you could do that. I might have already applied to the school that you're interested in with my 175 and have gotten a scholarship offer by the time you apply, or you could apply next year. Something to think about. Matthew, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying to type it out, but I'm not doing a good job. So we talked about narrowing scope. I think a lot of folks here are looking at part-time programs, which puts a good amount of constraint on them. So I guess if we could get a full ride at some school, let's say that's ranked, I don't know, 10 higher or even a few lower than the school we're aiming for. And I know we're not supposed to narrow our scope, but we are. If we could get a full ride, but we can't get a part-time, they don't have a part-time program. I mean, is that worth it? Like factoring in opportunity cost for not having income?
I think that's sure. Yeah. I think that depends on which two schools we're talking about. If we're talking about the difference between a difference of 10, if you're talking about the difference between, you know, a school ranked 50th and a school ranked 40th, then I don't think that's probably a meaningful difference. But if you're talking about the difference between, you know, WashU and the University of Chicago, then there's probably a difference there. As far as just like generally, I think it comes down to what you want your job to be, what kind of lawyer you want to be. You know, Nathan talks shit on Hastings, but like I'm applying there because I'm a Bay Area native and I have a lawyer friend with having done lots of I mean, he was a San Francisco public defender. He's been in private practice in the Bay Area for a while. And I asked him about Hastings. He's like, yeah, great school. Lots of good working lawyers in the Bay Area from Hastings. Now, the difference between that and like a Berkeley is pretty steep. But even with that amount of difference, if Hastings is the one that offered me money and it worked better for my life circumstance, then that's probably what I'd go for. Now, I guess your question would be more like, what if Hastings made more sense because of its particular program or had part-time or whatever?
Yeah.
But Berkeley or some other school that maybe isn't local, that doesn't have a part-time program, were to offer you a full ride, would that be worth it? I think it really depends on what the schools are and specifically what you want your job to be, and whether your career would really benefit from going to that higher ranked school. And I can't answer that like vaguely. I think that has to be a specific consideration of two actual law schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry if that wasn't super concrete.
No, I mean, it makes sense.
Cool. Mina asked in the chat, can you decide what kind of lawyer you want to be? Yeah, I mean, I think you should have some idea, probably. Well, the work of lawyers is generally similar. I think many people do have an idea of what kind of lawyer they would like to be. I know, or I say now that there's no way in hell you're getting me to work in big law, even though that's where the money is. I just don't want to live that life. And I have an idea of what kind of law I want to practice, what kind of lawyer I want to be, but I'm not like I have that vision, but I'm holding on to it somewhat lightly, understanding that there's things about the profession that I don't yet fully understand, and that my thoughts and interests might change in law school. So I have a direction, but I'm willing to change it. Jerron, or is it Jerome? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing.
It's Jerome, but it's completely fine. And I know you spoke about you once mentioned that you waited a year. Okay, my question is, if you're committed to doing the suboptimal route, and understand all the consequences involved. I wanted to ask, I haven't taken my LSAT yet. I'll be taking it in like 2 days in September. I'm averaging last 10 is a 175. I'm wondering if I don't hit a home run the first time around, and maybe I'll get 171, 173. And maybe if I do and get my average of 175, how does that weigh in between, because I'm also registered for the October. Do I sign up
Sure.
as early as possible once the September results come out on the 28th? Or maybe I'll try my luck and go October and maybe even November, and just like to see what if I do even better than my average. Like, how do
I
you weigh
think,
those two? Because there's
sure.
a
I mean,
chance that you don't- okay.
it sounds, based on your practice test scores, it sounds like you're ready to take the test. And if you're ready to take the tests, then you should probably just be registered for the next administration of the test anyways, assuming that it might take you a couple times. The first time I took it was in October of 2021, and I was already registered for November of 2021. I didn't know whether I would actually need to take it or if I would withdraw, but I was ready to. Now you don't really need to until the application deadline for the test, but I did assume that I was going to take it again, and I did. Now, this commitment to the suboptimal route that you're talking about, look, I have to imagine that is different if you actually score 175 on the LSAT. But I will say, though I was practice testing in the mid 170s by the time I took it for the first time, I scored near the bottom of my range the first time I took it. That pushed it out a month. So, by the time I was ready to apply, it would have been later in the cycle. So I would I would really encourage you to be open to applying next cycle if that's going to make you the best applicant you possibly can be. And definitely don't put all of your eggs in this one basket of a single test, because variance is real, and there might be one game that just throws you for a loop, and suddenly your 175 is a 170.
Okay, but what made you stop taking the exam once you got that 175? Didn't you believe that maybe you could score 177, 178?
Yeah, but just based on the schools I was interested in, my reading of 509s and the scholarship estimator, based on what my GPA was as well, even taking it up to a 180, like at the schools I was looking, I couldn't see that it made a hugely significant difference for me. Like at a 175, I was already at or above the 75th percentile LSAT score for all but, I don't know, like Yale, a couple schools. So yeah, it's something I considered. I think if I had scored a 174, maybe I would have taken it again. 175 was right that bubble where I was like, good enough for me, where I was at with everything else going on in my life, ready to just say, okay, I beat the LSAT and move on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Best of luck on the test in a couple days. Nate asks, do I want a clerkship? I'm not really sure. Haven't thought about that too much yet. I don't know if it would be necessary or beneficial for the sort of law that I want to get into. Katie, you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Eric. I wanted to ask you if you might not know about this, but like, do schools kind of like weigh things differently versus like what I'm thinking of doing is like I would like to get a really good LSAT score, and then like I know that score is good for like up to 5 years. I don't think that I would wait like 5 years, but like I might wait like a year or two before applying. Maybe even like max 3, probably not that many, but you never know. Like what do schools tend to think of a application of an applicant that like took their LSAT like several years ago. Is that still worth something?
I don't think it matters. I have never heard anything to suggest that it matters how long ago you took your LSAT, as long as it's still valid within that time, that 5-year time frame. I think what might matter somewhat is what you do during that time, and what it is what it is that ends up on your resume during that time, and whether the years that you took before applying were spent productively, and if you like have a real reason for changing your plans. But I don't think it really matters all that much. Like I don't think a 170 something matters less because it was 4 years ago instead of 1 year ago. Shay, how's it going?
Hi. Congrats on applying, by the way. I was wondering,
Thanks.
so like I'm looking at schools that I really want to get into, and scholarship's not super an issue because my employer's sponsoring me to go, but I'm definitely at like median LSAT score, or like will be at the end of like this year that I'm studying the LSAT, and then like low GPA, like the 25th percentile, like not below there, but like, and I'm wondering, does this mean I shouldn't apply to those schools, or try to like, or should I just kind of like lower my standards?
I think you can still apply. I mean, I'm applying. My GPA is fine, but it's on the lower end for the like elite schools. I'm where I would be down around the 25th percentile. The fact that that is a 25th percentile still means that 25% of their class has GPAs below that number. So they are admitting people with those scores. In all likelihood, they're splitters like yourself. I think your chances of being on the like 75th for LSAT and 25th for GPA, you're obviously far better off than being on 25th and 25th. I think you should still apply, especially if there's a particular school where you know that your cost of attendance would be covered with like no questions asked and no extra frills.
Like most, like I would say like like what we agreed was like 100 and up to 120K, but no less than 100K of like 3 years of paralegal. So I'm not too worried about scholarship, which I know Nathan would like yell at me for, but it's like,
do the math, and I don't know what school we're talking about, but really do the math, because 120K, I was looking at Stanford recently because it's in the area. I'll apply. I probably won't get in, but Stanford 509, they're charging something like 70,000 a year. Their estimated cost of living is like 30,000 a year. I'm from the Bay Area. I know that 30,000 per year is pretty optimistic for a cost of living there. You're talking 100,000 just to get through a year of life and study at a school. Assuming that like even after 120K, you maybe still have $100,000 worth in debt. That, I mean, there's interest on that compounds.
Right.
Do the math and be careful. To your earlier question, I think there's no reason you can't still apply to shoot your shot at the school you want to go to, but apply broadly, apply to some schools that you might think of as safety schools.
Yeah, I also am wondering if it's like normal to plateau in the 160s for like months. Like, is that, do you break out of a plateau in the LSAT eventually? Like, have you done that, or have you seen people do that, or is that like?
It looks like Bonnie is saying.
Shay, 163 was my original goal, and after a month with the demon, I broke through from like a 150s to 163, but then I was stuck at 163 for months, and then just last month I got a 174. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Stick with everything that they say, and I wrote another note to you in the chat too, just because even though my situation is slightly different, yours is slightly different, but the bottom line is you can't go wrong with getting the highest LSAT score you can get, regardless of how you're financing your education, regardless of how old you are, regardless of what your geographic constraints are. Like, there is no downside to getting another point or 10 points on the LSAT.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it for like a full year as my main hobby. So thank you so much, Bonnie. And thank you, Eric.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, keep killing it. I know I see you in class all the time, and you, Shay's a great participant in class. So yeah, keep crushing it. You'll get there. William, how's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for taking my question. Those like big score increases are motivating to hear about. I'm sitting around like the 150s right now, but I've only recently started trying to study like pretty diligently every day. Where did you start, and then before getting your 175, and like what study habits, and like other than the demon, what resources did you find most like beneficial for getting a score like that?
Once I found, I'm gonna mute you because I think I'm getting some feedback. But once I found the demon, I didn't use any other prep materials. I started with some other ones which seemed somewhat nonsensical to me. Maybe some of you have similar experiences. But once I found the demon, I just stuck with that, and everything you need is right there. I mean, I continue to listen to and actually edit the podcasts, and just their free advice on the podcasts each week are useful to hear. But otherwise, I was just, putting in at least an hour every day. I was working full time when I studied, but I woke up an hour earlier each day and got in an hour of study before I started work. If I was feeling up to it, I might do some more after work later in the day. Would do a practice test most weekends because I was already scoring pretty highly, didn't have too much to review from those practice tests. If you're scoring lower, you probably don't need to do a full PT every weekend. But I was doing a full PT every weekend. I was doing like at least a time section in each section over the course of the week, and then just filling in with review and drilling during all those empty spots. As far as my like journey, I mean, I was fortunate that I started pretty high. I PT'd at, I think, a 160. My diagnostic, I think, was a 162. With like weakest in the games, like a lot of people are. So my improvement was just kind of gradually understanding the games and getting better at the games over a course of a few months, honestly. And I relatively quickly, within a month or two, got to a point where I was PTing like on the high end in the 170s, but that was with like kind of luck and variance in my logic game section. And I might occasionally just like tank a game or two and still score in the 160s. It was after I had done hundreds of games and really drilled the games for months, that I got to a point where I was reliably perfect on them and like was comfortably in the 170s for most of my PTs. Did that answer your question? I forget if there was anything else in there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, kind of along those and figuring out what was best for me, the Demon, particularly for Demon Live subscribers, there are lots of resources that you can use. There's obviously drilling, you can take time sections, you have practice tests, there are written and video explanations for everything. There's an ask button where you can type in and get, usually within 24 hours, a response to questions that you have. There are live classes. If you want, there's the opportunity for one-on-one tutoring. It's a whole different thing, which I won't get into, but what's right for one person isn't necessarily right for everyone else. And though I had access to the live classes, I found that I ended up going to very few of them because I just came to realize that like I could just keep plugging away at my self-study, and what was the most efficient use of my time was to drill take time sections and study myself, and then understand my errors myself. Others others get more use out of going to class and having that chance to interact with other students and interact live with teachers. But even within the Demon as a program, there's a lot of, I think, flexibility for how you engage with it and what resources are best for you. There was a question in chat about tutoring. That I think the number that's quoted in chat is maybe if you want like Ben or Nathan to tutor you. That's certainly not what I make as an individual tutor. But if you're interested, if you go to the team page on LSAT Demon, where it's got all of our photos and you can look at our info, I think there's like a form that you can click on somebody's photo, and there's a form where you can like inquire about individual tutoring. And it's not all that much. Damien.
Yeah, hey, I have a question specifically about LSAT Demon. I took the August LSAT and I haven't even gotten my score back yet, just because I haven't done the writing, just because I can kind of tell it didn't go great, so I'm not dying to get it back.
Okay.
I was studying for like 6 months, well, a little less than that. Went from like a 157 diagnosed.
Sorry, just to pause. So you haven't gotten your score yet because score back
No,
yet because you
just
haven't
because
done
I
the
know it's
LSAT
gonna be
writing.
like, yeah, I just haven't bothered.
I would
doing that
just
yet.
get that. I would just get that out of the way so you don't have to think about it
Okay.
anymore. It's
Gotcha.
like
that's fair.
Yeah, it's not much. It's really not much, but just like do it
Okay.
and then you don't have to think about it anymore.
All right, that's fair. So I was just, so I went from like a 157 diagnostic to, I think my best practice test was like a 170, like 7 or something like that.
Awesome.
So I feel like I'm close. But
I'll say.
so I was wondering, would you be able to justify like paying for like LSAT Demon still? Because I'm convinced, I'm sure it's a great product. Just listening to like the podcast has helped a lot. But it is
what are you currently
pretty steep.
using?
I used 7 Sage for a while.
Uh-huh.
I'm currently just not studying. I'm just taking a break for a little bit.
But you have access to, like, through the LSAT Prep Plus, you have access to all of the
yeah,
tests.
I still have Prep Plus. Yeah.
Sign up for free, and you only have the 3 free practice tests, but you can get a sense for what it's like to work within the Demon. If you're at a 177, I'm not going to like tell you that what you've done is wrong, because clearly like what you've done has worked for you.
I wasn't like averaging there, but yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I would say you at least like you don't luck into a 177. You score a 177 even if it's at the top of your range, because you understand the test, like, and you get that it's just a test of reading comprehension and that it's ultimately easy and that the right answers are right.
Gotcha.
So I think if you're already there, I mean, sign up for free. It literally doesn't cost you anything. See if the interface and the access to explanations for questions would be useful to you. I certainly don't think live sounds like it's necessary for you, because you already kind of know what we preach. But yeah, if it doesn't seem like you need it and can just continue to study on your own inside of LSAT's own system, I'm not going to tell you that that's wrong if you're scoring 177. I will say I would prefer you just study on your own using just official prep tests and review, rather than sign up for some cheaper prep course
Right.
because they might teach you shitty things
Yeah.
that actually
Yeah.
hurt you.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Damien. Lindsay?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So my question is like kind of about like timing too, but it's a unique situation that I'm in, I think. I kind of screwed up a little bit because I thought I was going to graduate in 4 years, but I ended up like being on course to graduate in 3. So I took the LSAT kind of like not very
You and
good
like
at
sorry to interrupt, you and like most undergraduate students, by the way. I was reading about this recently. The average undergrad student now, I don't think is even expected to finish in 5 years. It's like there's a real issue with our colleges. But anyways, please continue.
Yeah, so that kind of like threw me for a loop, I guess. It's good to know that other people are doing that too. But so like I'm not a very good test taker to begin with, but I started studying for the LSAT maybe back in February and then studied a little bit harder. And now I'm like starting to see like a lot of improvement. Like I went from a 158 to like a 169.
Nice.
My issue is like my GPA right now is right where I want it to be to like apply to law school, but my LSAT isn't. And I was wondering if like postponing and waiting till the next cycle would be worth it to increase my score a few points, but potentially have my GPA lower because I'm taking harder classes. Like not by a lot, but like 3.8, like maybe if I get like a B or an A- in a course. Or like
wait, so the choice is between graduating sooner with a higher GPA versus graduating later with a lower GPA? I think I misunderstood you.
Like I would postpone my LSAT application to when I would have like more grades in. So like right now, like my current transcript has like a 4.0, but like say I applied like next. And I'm not saying that would.
I see. I don't know. Okay, so I don't know. I will admit that I don't know how that works when you're applying, but the law school has not yet seen your final semester or final year grades. I don't know the process for that. And I don't know if they're like if their decision is subject to change based on your later grades. I would need to ask somebody else about that. I don't think my gut tells me that what your final grades are the grades that will matter, and that taking the LSAT sooner to try to preempt like maybe your grades lowering later probably isn't a valid strategy. That's my guess. I think that whatever your grades are going to be, that's what your grades are going to be. That said, I think the reason to delay your LSAT, if you're thinking about your grades, is just to give yourself more time to focus on your grades and focus on school and focus on enjoying your last year of school. It's the one time you're going to be an undergrad, hopefully. And you should be able to enjoy your senior or your super senior or your super senior year or whatever it is. I mean, if you're scoring a 4.0, then you're doing great. And it sounds like you're okay studying for the LSAT as well. But if you would rather just take a break from LSAT study and focus on school, that's cool too.
Well, I think maybe I like said it wrong. I'm graduating a year early, not like 1 year.
Oh.
Yeah. So
okay.
I didn't know if I should take like a gap.
Apologies. I have like completely and like 100% misunderstood what you have tried to tell me.
Yeah.
Look, I'm 31. I graduated 10 years ago and I'm applying now. So like I'm evidence of like you don't need to be K through JD. And I'm happy with the fact that I've had a career and some time in between undergrad and law school. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry if for repeatedly misunderstanding your situation.
No, you're fine. I probably just explained it poorly.
It's all good. Any other questions? I'm happy to hang out a little bit longer if there's more questions that people want to discuss. No? All right. Well, cool. Hopefully this was helpful for y'all. Nathan does these free sessions every 2 weeks, I think. I'll probably be at the next one as well, TAing and sticking around afterwards to chat. Who knows, 2 weeks from now, maybe I'll have some admissions or scholarship offers to talk about. Maybe not. That's ambitious, but one can hope.
I bet you will. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thanks,
It was
Bonnie.
good to chat with you. And see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, everyone. Great seeing you.